Hi guys, so today we are on page 118 of your textbook and we are talking about social, economic and political structures, and I know that sometimes you guys find it a little bit difficult to understand, so go with me to page 118 and let's quickly discuss it so that I can make sure you understand it before you start your activity. Okay, so let's have a look at our new words, which is going to help us the most during reading these pages. And social is the relationships between people living together in a community. Political is the way in which society is ruled. And then economic is the way in which the necessities of life produced and distributed. So for instance, with us, it's money now, but back then it would be the cattle and the seeds and so forth for the planting of crops. Structure is the way people in a society are organized. And kagotla means meeting place. So in farming communities, food and seed are stored. The people who control these stores may have a lot of power over the other people. They can become kings or chiefs or important headmen or counselors. Other people must serve them and be loyal and obedient if they are to share in the food and seed supplies. It is necessary to have many rules or laws to keep the peace. So this is how things worked back then. And in early African societies, each member of the family had a role to play. So this would be socially how they worked together. So the younger men, you will be asked in the activity to say the role, and this is where you will find it. So the younger men did the hard work in the fields. They looked after the livestock, hunted for food, and fought battles if necessary. The women and girls cooked, brewed beer, fetched wood and water, and looked after children. They also worked in the fields, planting, weeding and harvesting. Children became involved in farming from an early age. Boys helped the men with the cattle and other animals, and girls helped the women in the fields and in the household. When a family needed help, they would organize a work party. They would prepare food and beer, and people would come to help with the work and share in a meal afterwards, which I think is just so great that they had no problem helping each other. So who was in charge of them, who ruled them? And that was the chief. And chiefs were very important as it was believed that they were closer than ordinary people to the ancestors, and they looked after their people. So this is obviously something as Christians now, we know that nobody is specifically better or closer to God. It's just a relationship that we have with Him, and each of our relationships are different. So this was just their beliefs back then. All right, the chief's hutla was where people from the village met, and it was the chief's homestead between the households of his wives and his cattle kraal. The chief's cattle enclosure could hold about 500 head of cattle. So we say head of cattle, that's each cattle. And the kagotla was very large so that all the men of the village could attend the meetings. The older men were leaders who helped the chief to settle arguments between people. We move on to page 119, and it says, the chief was always the wealthiest man in the village with the most cattle. Wrongdoers had to appear before his court. If they were found guilty, they had to pay a fine. And so obviously they didn't have money back then, so fines were paid in cattle. And the chief also obtained cattle from raids on other chiefdoms. So there would be different villages and chiefdoms around, and they would raid other places and steal their cattle. So he was entitled to some cattle from each man who successfully took part in a raid. So it's almost like paying taxes. So this is a stone. It marks the entrance to the chief's kagotla, and this is one that is still standing in the Northwest Province today. Okay, so activity 5 and question 1, you will be telling me what are the roles of each of those people, meaning what did they do. And if you remember, I showed you it is on page 118. Number 2, you need to write down 3 things that your chief did. And in number 3, you learned about good leaders. So write down 3 characteristics that the chief had to have. So maybe he had to be a good listener, to be able to listen to the arguments. Those are the type of characteristics. Okay, guys, good luck.